Hello, I'm the Progressive Disciple, and I'm taking a journey through the Bible, and I'm inviting you to join me. Today, we are covering Esther Chapters 1 through 5. Esther is a book that strikes me as a melodrama. It gives the background to the festival of Purim. The book starts with King Xerxes and Queen Vashti having banquets for the men and the women in the kingdom. King Xerxes had a banquet for the men, and Queen Vashti had a banquet for the women. King Xerxes ordered the wine steward to let the wine flow freely, so anybody could drink whatever they wanted. In the middle of the banquet, King Xerxes, probably very sauced up at this point, decided to display his queen in all her beauty. So he ordered the eunuchs to bring Queen Vashti out wearing her royal crown, so that all can see just how beautiful she was. Queen Vashti, not wanting to appear in front of this drunken rabble, refused, and this made the king and his servants very upset. In Esther, chapter 1, verse 16 through 18, it says, "Then Memucan replied in the presence of the king and the nobles, 'Queen Vashti has done wrong, not only against the king, but also against all the nobles and all the peoples of all the provinces of King Xerxes. For the queen's conduct will become known to all women, so that they will despise their husbands and say, King Xerxes commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she would not come.' This very day, the Persian and Median women of the nobility who have heard about the queen's conduct will respond to all the king's nobles in the same way. There will be no end of disrespect and discord." Well, I have spoken about male privilege before. This had more to do with preserving male privilege than anything that Queen Vashti had actually done. I think this was an overreaction. Of course, this is more of a melodrama, so one can expect this. So after Queen Vashti was put aside, they decided to hold a beauty contest to see who the next queen would be. Mordecai decides to enter his adopted daughter, Esther. In Esther chapter 2, verse 17, it says, "Now the king was attracted to Esther more than any other woman, and she won favor and approval more than any other virgins. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti." What can I say? I have a bad habit of looking at a woman and judging her by her looks. And I think it is something that we need to work against. Women should be judged by their merits, not by their beauty. As the story continues, Mordecai offends Haman by refusing to bow to him. He felt that this was against his religion, and Haman not only despised Mordecai for this, but all the Jews. In Esther chapter 3, verses 8 through 9, it says, "Then Haman said to King Xerxes, 'There is a certain people dispersed among the peoples of all your provinces of your kingdom, who keep themselves separate. Their customs are different from those of all other people, and they do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it please the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will give 10,000 talents of silver to the king's administration for the royal treasury.'" Obviously, Haman's anger got the better of him. Genocide is a horrible thing, and it usually starts by taking people and reducing them, making them vermin in your eyes. Then You can do whatever you want. Haman had definitely crossed the line. But taking a step back, I have to ask myself, how does this passage affect me? I get angry. A lot of times at the news, I get very angry. And sometimes I lose my temper. But even though it may be right for me to feel angry, I must never lose the idea that the people that have angered me are human beings as well. They have children, they have to eat, they have all the problems I have. To make them less than human is to go down a road against God. Therefore, I need to control my anger. At this decree, Mordecai goes into mourning. Esther, seeing that he is in mourning, tries to give him better clothes, but he refuses. And word gets to Esther on why Mordecai is so sad. In Esther chapter 4, verses 12 through 14, it says, "When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer: 'Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?'" So the question that this verse brings to me is, has God put me in a position to do his work? And what is that position? And I also think, when is it time to act? It is said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. The problem is, when evil rises, it's a very scary time. And this tends to be a time when people choose to do nothing. But I think it is important to take a stand, even if it threatens your life. This is something that Esther had to face, because going to the king uncalled for is a death sentence, unless the king holds out his scepter to pardon you. And this is what Esther does. She goes to the king, and the king pardons her. In Esther 5, verse 4, Esther says, "If it pleases the king," replied Esther, "let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him." I think it interesting that Esther does not immediately demand the salvation of the Jews, and that the king reverse his edict. She chooses a more softer approach. So what is best to do when there is injustice? I've seen places where protests where people are very angry and they vent their anger has worked. But I suspect that a lot of times a softer approach is more called for. Before the banquet, Haman let his anger toward Mordecai fester even more. And at the suggestion of his wife, Haman creates a huge impaling pole for Mordecai. And this ends Esther chapters 1 through 5. So what do you think? What do you think about male privilege? What do you think about handling your anger? And perhaps bringing about change? Please leave your comments below. Also, subscribe and like this video. The next video, I will be concluding Esther with chapters 6 through 10. I am the Progressive Disciple, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.